Hey everybody, I just wanted to give you an update on some new products that are available through shopjbs.org. Now, for those of you not aware, as coordinator, I get the privilege of getting some samples of these. So if I'm in your area, I'll probably have some of these just so I can give you a sample and take a look at what they are. But I also like to do a little bit of a video about okay, what do we have available, what can we use them for, and all these things. So just opening up the box here today. Here we go. And what do we got here? First thing we've got is this reprint. It's two articles from the New American from July 5th of this year. And it's called COVID Vaccines, A Cure Worse Than the Disease. And this actually has two articles in it. The first one is by Dr. Lee Merritt. Some of you who are going to the We Can Act Liberty Conference should be able to see her speak, listen to her, maybe even meet her. That'll be October 22nd and 23rd. But she gives a great overview based on good statistics and everything of what so far we have learned of the reactions from people, side effects from the COVID vaccine, in which she points out can't really accurately be called a vaccine in the traditional sense. There's a little kind of sidebar. Are the vaccines harming more than good? There's a nice couple of ads in here. And then you've got the second article, Doctors Debunk the Medical Consensus. So these are actually doctors that are very well read. Of course, they've published in many publications, academic type of things, and they're able to say what their thoughts are on that. You've got Dr. Suharit Bhakti from Germany, Dr. Peter McCulloch, Simone Gold, so many of you heard of her from Frontline Doctors, and then Dr. Rainer Fulmick, and then an ad on the back. I would say use this for somebody that probably start with the people that are already concerned about COVID vaccine. But many times we're concerned about things, but we don't necessarily have some good, reliable information to use to back that up. Maybe you want to share it with somebody that is kind of on the fence on the issue. They say, I haven't really taken a position on this issue one way or another. I'm still deciding whether I should take the vaccine. You might just hand this to them and say, hey, you know, I thought this was really good, solid information. Why don't you tell me what you think about it? And, you know, I'll get back with you. Just follow it up with that. Try not to hit them over the head with a hammer, saying that basically you're right and I'm wrong. Generally, that doesn't go too well, but this might be something of use. These are available. I think it's a 16-page reprint, so it's a little more expensive than your other type of reprint. A lot of these you can get out on PDF as well, so that's another option for format. The next reprint we have is something that's also going to be a very hot topic among people that you know. And this one is critical race theory. Now back August 9th issue of the New American, we had this cover article. So this is a 8-page reprint, not a 16, so a little less expensive, a little less spendy there. But it's the article by Alex Newman. And many people still, even though there's quite a bit of talk about critical race theory, they're a little bit fuzzy on where that came from. So Alex goes into that very well. And so that's a nice thing you can take and use to kind of reinforce. There's probably the easiest way to share something like this is go to a place, if you're networked among different liberty-minded activists, where is a speaker that's coming to your town or to your area speaking about this subject. And then you can hand these out to people in attendance. Or you can, if they have a place where you can sell them, you can sell them, whatever you want to do with them. But there's an opportunity. It might be something where there's a school board meeting and people are kind of fired up about, well, let's testify to the school board, ask them not to put critical race theory in our schools. Well, if you're able to hand this out, or maybe you have a group of people that want to go to the school board to testify, they can use little snippets from this in part of their testimony, or you could use it in letters to the editor. So there's a lot of different uses that you can bring there. This is kind of a here and now. I just went over to Walmart the other day, and there was a book written by this fellow here. So there are many uses to this reprint that you can think about, but those are just ones that come to my mind. You probably have quite a few people that are interested in whether it's the COVID vaccine or critical race theory, and from that, you can segue into, well, this came from the New American. The New American, they might ask what the New American is. Well, it's the official magazine of the John Birch Society. Then they say, well, what's the John Birch Society? Well, okay, there's an opportunity to talk about what the John Birch Society is, why they have this publication, what we do as Birchers. So you can also help them maybe segue into the idea of, well, maybe we should get our kids out of the public schools. And that, you can go different ways with that. We have some more brief publications and tools that can help you educate people about the need to do that. But if you're starting with the reprint on critical race theory, you might segue into, well, the John Birch Society, if you've talked about that, they have a campaign which you can take a part of. We invite you to join the John Birch Society if you feel so inclined. There's some benefits to that. You can go into that if you want to, but it's called Save Our Children. And one of the parts of that is to get kids out of the public school system into private homeschooling. We have two new, more brief tools for education. This one is called Get Them Out. Pretty simple. Now, many of you have heard Alex Newman. He's a writer for the New American Magazine, and he talks about the need to get kids out of the public schools using the analogy of a burning building. If you knew your kids were in a burning building, you would try to get them out. If you could go in there and get them out yourself, great. But you would recognize the emergency, the danger, and the immediately the remedy for that. And he uses the analogy that we should get the kids out of the public schools because the danger to them is really so severe for their lives, even though they probably will not actually die in the public schools, but the effect on their lives is very grave to how the way they think and all these things, as if they had been threatened with their actual lives. Now, once again, the nature of what we call Slim Jims or palm cards, they're very brief. You'll notice there's also QR codes on here. One of them is to read the special report from the New American from a few months back called Save Our Children. You can read that on PDF so far as I'm aware. Also learn more. So that puts you to the action page for this project, Save Our Children. And also the John Birch Society itself, learn more about the John Birch Society. There's a space here as well to put, say, a mailing label on there to put the contact information for local chapter or activists. So that's a real nice thing as well. These are also very affordable. You can use them, go to an event, hand them out. And if you order 125 at a time, they cost you like 8 cents a piece. So it's pretty affordable. If somebody just, rips it up, throws it away, you're not out a whole lot, but you can distribute these to a large number of people who kind of may or may not be wanting to talk with you about the issue, but at least you can hand it to them and they can get a brief, hopefully positive impression. Now, this one here is a trifold pamphlet, which of course by its nature goes a little bit more in detail, not simply bullet points, but pretty brief. And the front of that is America's failing public schools. So for people that are concerned about the academic failures of the government schools, this of course would be a hot button for them. And they realize that, oh, well, they're not doing so well on the things we traditionally care about, but they also are reliably pushing things like revisionist history and critical race theory. Okay. On the back, it has the QR codes, which people can use with their smartphones to scan and go directly to certain websites, such as Save Our Children, Learning More, and the John Birch Society. It does have a phone and web address for the John Birch Society there. Not sure where exactly, maybe on the front, if you wanted to put local contact information, that might be a good place to do that. Or maybe right here, right here. So different options there, but there is some space you could do that. Makes 3 points of 3 ways to save our children. Number 1, get them out. Number 2, crusade for biblical teaching. And number 3, defund public schools. So basically saying that, okay, the first thing is get your kids out of the public schools, find a way. And then the leadership for this type of movement should come from traditional Christian, Jewish, religious leaders, where they recognize that this is not going to go well for the church or the synagogue and in the future if we continue to have over half of the young people getting out of the public schools, many of them going into colleges. But either way, you're just turning your church into a museum, basically. That's not good. And then defund the public schools. The easiest way to do that is get them out of the public schools, and then their funding from the state is less. But also talking about state legislators about gradually reducing the state funding of the public schools. So this one is probably the next level up for somebody. It might be something for mass distribution. It could be something for doorbelling. You could knock on somebody's door and say, are you concerned about the public schools? And if they are, then I have something for you. Here's our contact information. We're trying to organize parents to get their kids out of the public schools. And if you'd like to be a part of it, here's some basic information about what we're trying to do. And just leave it at that. They may agree with you. You might run into the superintendent of public schools if you knock on their door. I don't know. But there's quite a few people that are concerned about the public schools. So this is a great resource. So consider what you can do with these different resources. The Trifold, Slim Jim, and the 2 hot button reprints, which of course go in more detail on these different subjects. I want to thank all of you for being active, and just know that you can make a difference in your area. I look forward to working with you. Hopefully we can meet up in the future. All right, thanks so much. Keep birching.